Good morning and welcome to Football League World TV. My name's Ned Holmes and this is the debate show. Today I'm joined by my Football League World colleague, Billy Mulley. How are you doing this morning, Billy?
Yeah, doing well, thank you. On the show today, it's a good start to my week. Anyway, it's a very good question and something that I'm sure there's going to be good arguments both for and against.
Yeah, certainly. As Billy hinted at then, the question we're looking at today is whether Ian Evatt can deliver promotion at Bolton Wanderers. They, of course, moved up to 5th with that comeback win last night. Well, before we get stuck in, just a reminder, please do like and share this video. Subscribe to Football League World TV on YouTube if you haven't already. And, of course, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Are you a Bolton fan, a League One fan, an EFL fan, just a football fan in general? What have you made of Bolton this season, over the last 2 seasons? And do you think Ian Evatt can lead them to promotion? Well, Billy, as we often do, we're going to start by reflecting on last season. Obviously, Bolton's first season back in League One, a strong sort of showing from then. If they did fall short of the top 6, but their 73 points in previous seasons would have been enough to earn them a playoff place. That was just sort of a reflection of, I guess, the strength of the division last year. What did you make of Bolton and Ian Evatt showing in League One last term?
Yeah, as you say, it was it was the first season. Bolton were back in League One. I guess when you're immediately promoted, the ultimate ambition is to survive. And of course, they've done a lot more than that. They really impressed in stages, especially that sort of back end of the campaign. Lots of changes around the club in recent times as well. So it's quite difficult to adapt in that kind of sense. Starting now to see continuity, but I guess during that first season back, there were a lot of changes to have to contend with. And you look at Ian Evatt, was relatively inexperienced at this level. Of course, a very good campaign to acclimatise himself to the division and the demands of the division. We speak about League One as well, being very competitive the last couple of campaigns, and to poise themselves, in a very good position just outside the playoff positions. It set them up perfectly, I thought, for this campaign. And what we've seen so far is a continuation of that sort of success. So, yeah, last season, by all accounts, was very successful from a Bolton perspective. And given that there were opportunities to, break into that kind of barrier where they were, seen as maybe a top 6 side come the end of the season, I think that's a very good position to be in. And of course, that's translated very well across to this campaign.
Yeah, as you said, I think important really for Bolton that, given that they didn't quite make it with that sort of late season push, it was important. It was always going to be important that they capitalised on that late season form. And as you say, they've done exactly that. They sit 5th now after 15 games, 8 wins, 3 draws, 4 losses. They've carried that form, as we say, into the new season. And a big part of that, Billy's been the defensive record, the best in League One, 11 goals conceded in 15 games. We talked a lot about Bolton attackers last season, and at times we were talking about those wing backs getting forward, but they've stepped it up a level defensively this season, haven't they?
Yeah, he summed it up perfectly there. 11 goals in 15 games conceded, 7 clean sheets, and as you say, the best defence in the division. We've seen, I think, for me, one of the key factors is the versatility within defence. I think even yesterday we saw Iredale step into the back 3 and put in a performance worthy of playing there every week. Gethin Jones as well, he's been tasked with playing on that right side of a back 3. Wing backs we've seen constantly changed, and they've been able to gain results on a consistent basis by chopping and changing that sort of back 3 and those wing backs, which I guess is a really big thing going into a point of the season where injuries will be picked up, and they've shown they've got the adaptability within the squad to cope with those kind of difficulties that they may face. So all in all, defensively speaking, there's been no problems whatsoever so far. A defensive record that would warrant competing for a top 2 spot at this stage. But as I'm sure we'll come on to, attacking wise, it hasn't quite been as fluent as we come to expect last year. overall, though, 15 games played, 11 goals conceded, sitting fifth in the league. It's very promising at this stage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but perhaps a little out of character for that defensive resilience that we've seen them concede 3 times in their last 2 games. But a 3-2 comeback win versus Accrington Stanley on the weekend, and then 2-1 last night. They left it very late with John Daddy Bodvarsson scoring a winner in the 97th minute in that one. Billy, what do those results tell us about the mentality of this squad? I mean, I think it's easy to, I think every manager in the squad would claim that their players have got fight and determination and battle, and they don't know when they're beaten and things like that. But the last week really has shown that the Ian Evatt squad are a side that have the sort of the mental strength, as it were, to fight back even late in games when they're down.
Yeah, mentality is massive in this division. You look at League One and you see the, you could say fallen giants, but you see how many big clubs there are competing to get back into the Championship. That probably double figures in terms of the clubs that do have the resources and the scope to compete for promotion to the Championship. So it comes down to other factors, and mentality is of course one of them. And as we've seen there, two very good results. May not have been the best performances in the world, but they've managed to secure 2 important wins. And I think what we've seen with Bolton this season, they can win in different ways. They can win these sort of scrappy games. They can win when they've seen lion's share of possession, but they can also go and take teams to the sword. It hasn't happened too often yet because I don't think they're fully clicking as an attacking unit as of yet. But I think the fact that they are able to win these games in different ways will be a massive factor as the season progresses. And you look at the games more recently, Accrington Stanley and Burton, teams you'd expect Bolton to be beaten, but you have to go out and do it. And when not fully flowing like we know they can play, it comes down to the mentality factor. And I think we've seen yesterday just how important it was, John Daddy Bodvarsson getting onto the score sheet. And those post-match scenes just show how much of a unit it is at Bolton at the moment, and this sort of togetherness that is not just the playing squad, it leaks into the management. And the relationship between Ian Evatt and Sharon Britton as well. It just seems to be a club where all parts are moving in the right direction, and there's good relationships throughout.
Yeah, certainly. I'd agree with you. Those celebrations after that 97th minute winner, the shirt ripped off by John Daddy Bodvarsson and his teammates rushing to him really did seem like more than you'd expect to see often from just a midweek win. Well, Billy, in a second we're going to move on to talk about some of the summer transfer business, but just a reminder to anyone watching, we do want to get your comments in. Do you think Ian Evatt can deliver promotion with Bolton? As I said, Billy, we're going to shift to talk about the summer transfer business. A fairly quiet summer by Bolton's previous standards and by the standards of League One, really, for players joining. Jack Iredale, as we've talked about, on a free transfer from Cambridge United. Owen Beck and Connor Bradley on loan from Liverpool, and Owen Toyle from Derry City. What did you make of the summer transfer business, Billy, and which of those signings really stood out to you?
I think to me, initially, Connor Bradley, I think making exciting steps within that Liverpool academy, a player that is quite evidently going to go on to good things. And, his pace, his intelligence when going forward, the bundles of energy he possesses, it's exciting to see. And I think that's translated into a real good start to life at Bolton on loan, of course. I was a little bit wary of when Owen Beck came to Bolton that he wouldn't see sufficient minutes. We've already mentioned Jack Iredale, Declan John, that's also within the squad as well. 2 very capable left wing backs, and they've got the versatility as well with Afolayan able to operate in that left wing back role. So I was a little bit concerned, but then I think the main story of this the summer transfer window just gone was just sort of filling in little cracks, because I think they'd done the majority of their business during the previous summer and the January as well. I think they assembled a squad that's not just able to cope with the demands of League One, the top end of League One, but also a squad that could go into the Championship and compete. So I think they'd succeeded with that the previous summer and in the January. So the summer transfer window just gone was mainly about just filling in those particular areas that perhaps needed a little bit more strengthening. And I think they've succeeded in that. And I think that that's transformed across to the start of this campaign, and which is why we're seeing such a competitive squad at Bolton. And I think that's the key factor if they are to continue operating in and around these playoff positions. It's going to be ensuring that they've got this 18-man squad that can meet every kind of demand that a match may sort of entail. So I think all in all, it was a good summer. It wasn't the most productive in terms of the amount of players they brought in, but it was a summer that they met the demands of what they really needed.
Yeah, you talk about sort of topping up the squad there. What does I'm sure, other, if he'd really wanted it, Ian Evatt probably could have demanded, more funds to go out and bring in a few more players. But what does the fact that, he seemed pretty happy with what he's got, does that tell you that he's got confidence in this squad? And what does that tell us really about how much he values continuity, do you think?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it tells us that he's confident in his squad. He believes that this squad is able to take Bolton to a higher level, which I think would probably ring confidence around the camp. I think that if your manager knows what he wants and he doesn't make too many additions, I think that places a lot of confidence in the current squad, especially a club as ambitious as Bolton are. Sort of since the completion of the takeover and everything like that, I think that's a massively beneficial thing to the squad. And as we said there, I think the fact that he'd done a lot of business prior to that and added what I think is a squad capable of winning promotion to the Championship, I think that there is a lot of faith in that squad. And ultimately, we'll see what happens this year, but there are a lot of players that are able to make that step up. And I think that's the big factor here, that he's got this squad that can win in different ways. They can play different styles of football. I think looking purely at the central midfield options he has available to him, it's hard to find a better midfield in the entire League One, because they can meet different demands. You've got Thomas and MJ Williams, both can break up the play and start attacks that way. But then you've also got the real technicians in sort of Aaron Mulley, Carl Dempsey, Josh Sheehan coming back as well will be massive. And obviously Kieran Lee has just been, very, very good again this season, and a player evidently of Championship quality, although maybe coming to the latter stages of his career. I just think it's a very, very good squad. And, coming into January, are they going to do much again? Will they try and solidify their spot of trying to go for automatic promotion? It's an exciting time for Bolton fans, and as you say, continuity is very, very important, and I think that's an attribute that Ian Evatt has really placed emphasis on. So I think at this moment in time, it's a very, very good position to be in, both from a transfer standpoint and from a league standings perspective too.
Yeah, we've talked about that defence stepping things up a level, and you mentioned there I guess the quality and the range of options, all with the sort of different strengths that Ian Evatt has to call upon in midfield. I mean, in the final third is perhaps the area where we've not yet seen things really click for Bolton this season. No player is more than 2 League One goals this term. Billy, do you see that as a concern, that they don't have, these inform attacking players to really lean on moving forward? Or is it a case actually that, obviously they'd love some of their players to have sort of found the net more over the opening months, but it's a positive that everyone's contributing across the board, and that there's still more to come from the likes of Dapo Apolline and Dion Charles?
Yeah, I think I'm more on the side of it being a concern at this stage. You look at the teams in and around them, and they are reliant on their defensive record so far. They scored 18 goals, which is 5 fewer than teams in and around them. It's something that I think needs addressing, but ultimately, I think Evatt has faith in his strikers. He's set them challenges during the season. He's kept faith with Dion Scholes and John Daddy Bodvarsson. I don't think it's a fact that they're not firing, they're not contributing in any way. I think out of possession, both John Daddy Bodvarsson and Dion Scholes are terrific. I think they also help in link up play as well. And Charles, his ability to run the channels and get in behind and cause dangerous situations makes him in particularly a very, very good player to have in the squad and to be playing week in, week out. Of course, contributions in the final thirds does need to improve. Whether that means they might dip into the January transfer market and address that remains to be seen. But I do think something needs altering, something needs addressing. I wouldn't say it's a massive concern, and I don't think it's the sort of be all or end all. But I think if they can manage to, get this final thing right, get their final third play up to a level where, of their sort of the teams in and around them, then that could be the final component that helps them sort of elevate themselves to, compete with Plymouth and Ipswich and those teams that are currently competing for automatic promotion. I think there's definitely the tools to get themselves onto that kind of platform. It's just whether they can do it in January, whether something clicks with Dion Scholes and he's able to sort of recapture that goal scoring form he has shown before. But ultimately, they need a goal scorer. I think that's what they need at this moment in time. And whilst there's a lot of attributes that the current forwards do bring to the table, it's about scoring goals. And I think that's something that may need addressing come January.
Yeah, it's funny you talk about potentially addressing it in January. We've had a comment in from Jabba. He says, Evatt usually makes a few good signings in January. Hopefully the same again this season to push on after Christmas. We certainly have seen Ian Evatt dip into that January market since he's been at the club. Talking of Ian Evatt, Billy, linked with the Blackpool job in the summer. We've seen a fair bit of League One coaches linked with sort of championship jobs in the opening months of the season, with obviously a lot of sackings, a lot of changes. The reports suggested he would have entertained potentially taking charge at Blackpool. Do you see losing him to another club as a concern for Bolton?
Yeah, I think it has to be a concern, especially when you consider the rate of championship managers and how quickly they've fallen so far this season. I think Ian Evatt is one of the best coaches outside the championship, the top two divisions. I think there's a lot of scope for him to go on and enjoy a really successful managerial career just from what he's shown at Barrow and Bolton so far. I think he plays a good brand of attacking football and something that seems to be prioritised at the moment within the championship. So should there be many more vacancies in the championship, which if we go by the rate that they're falling so far is quite likely, be no surprise to see him in association with a few more jobs. But I think the project that he's got at Bolton is very exciting. I think the relationship he has with the Bolton hierarchy makes this job the one for him at the moment. And I know higher level comes with sort of that temptation, but I just think it wouldn't be the best time to move whilst he's embarking on this really exciting project, and it's something there for him that could really elevate his profile if he could manage to deliver a top 6 spot for Bolton. I think that would elevate the kind of jobs that he's in association with. So I think at this stage, I don't think moving to a championship club, should that surface, would be the best idea for him. Of course, there could be, a top championship club with real ambition of getting to the Premier League, which, will raise sort of that temptation level. But I think he's got something special at Bolton and something that, I don't think we're seeing it in full motion at the moment. I still think there's improvements to be made, which is, I guess, an exciting prospect for Bolton fans, that things could get even better.
Yeah, it does certainly seem like Bolton are on the rise at the moment. So you question whether, what job it would have to be to tempt him away. Well, talking of a top 6 finish there, Billy, I mean, I think we talked a lot on Football League World TV about just how open the championship is this season. Not quite the case in League One. I think no real arguments with Plymouth, Ipswich, and Sheffield Wednesday establishing themselves as the real front runners for the title, for those top 2 places, and just really as the best 3 teams in the division. Do you see Bolton in that next group alongside the likes of your Portsmouths, your Peterboroughs, teams like that, or do you think that they're sort of one step below again? Where do you see Bolton? Assuming, I'm guessing you don't see them in amongst that top 3 with Ipswich, Sheffield Wednesday, and Plymouth.
Yeah, it's difficult because we all know how quickly things change. You look at Norwich in the Championship. We were speaking about them as automatic promotion contenders the other day, and then results really do dictate the expectations. And I think here in this current moment, Bolton, you do see as that sort of next band of teams just below the likes of Plymouth, Ipswich, and Sheffield Wednesday. But as we've seen, results in this division do surprise you. Plymouth looked like they were going to be confined to a draw yesterday, but late brilliance settles that. And Ipswich, of course, have dropped points. Sheffield Wednesday have dropped points. So it's capitalising when they do drop points and being perfectly positioned to capitalise in those kind of scenarios. As we say at this moment in time, I think Bolton are in that sort of next band where they'll be competing for the top 6 spot. You've still got very, very good teams that are not fully firing at the moment. I think Derby, Barnsley, Charlton, there's more to come from teams like them. Peterborough starting to find their groove again. But I think if Bolton are to address this January issue of bolstering their front line, maybe adding sort of a more youthful striker from the Premier League on loan, they could be able to, elevate themselves and push on and try and compete for automatic promotion. They've certainly got that defensive resilience. They manage games well. In terms of dominating the ball, they do that on the majority of occasions. They take to a football pitch. So I think there is a lot of scope for Bolton to continue to improve things further. As I mentioned before, I think there's still an extra gear with Ian Evatt and his side to go into and really compete at a higher level. I just think that the form shown by Ipswich, Plymouth, and Sheffield Wednesday, I can't see them dropping too many points this season, and I think they're already teams with squads of high level quality, and I think for that reason I see that Bolton at this stage a little bit below that kind of level.
Yeah, I mean, one thing at least that will sort of, I guess, tip the scales in Bolton's favour as we move towards sort of business end of the season is that under Evatt we've really seen them as strong finishers. That they flew up that League Two table in his first season in charge and ended up securing automatic promotion again last season. Finished really strongly. How important do you think that trait could be to their promotion hopes, given the number of times we've seen in recent years, particularly in the playoffs, teams like Blackpool, like Sunderland, those teams that finish with, I mean, this is a word that we always end up saying on Football League World TV in the second half of the season a lot, that finish with momentum, they seem to be the successful ones. In that sense, do you think the reputation, perhaps is the wrong word, but the form they've shown in finishing seasons is a real positive?
Yeah, I think it'll be a massive positive. And I think if things tail off slightly, it'll keep Bolton fans excited, keep them vocal, keep them, intact with the team. The fact that they do tend to finish seasons very strongly. You go back to the comment that we got in as well, that January business, I think, plays a massive part in allowing them to do that. And I think if they are to add maybe a couple more players to continue improving things, particularly in the attacking lineup, we could be speaking about Bolton as automatic promotion candidates. It'll be interesting to see. As we say, Bolton have grown a good reputation of doing exactly that, performing well at the latter stage of the season and picking up the subsequent results. I think that's going to be massive if we are talking about Bolton as automatic promotion contenders. But yeah, I think it also gives them the ammunition needed if they maybe tail off from the playoff race as well. The fact that they can bounce back and, embark on good form. We've seen it as well. Bolton, when they do pick up one result, they tend to pick up 2 or 3, which again is another real good trait of a side that will go on to do well. I think if you combine that with the fact that they've got this really, really competitive squad, mentioned the midfield there, but you look at the defence, the fact that, Gethin Jones and Jack Iredale can fill in a sort of right side and left sided centre backs. You look at Afolayan that can play in the number 10 role. He can play up top if really need be. He can play as a wing back, and if switching a formation up a bit, he can go back to his favoured wing position. So there's a lot of versatility. There's a lot of scope for competition levels to continue to be this high. Of course, injury concerns will be picked up, but I think the fact that these competition levels are so high means that Bolton won't miss certain individuals like other clubs would. So I think that will keep them excited. That will keep Bolton fans very, very excited for what remains of this campaign. And, it's really, really exciting time for them at the moment.
Yeah, you talk about an exciting time there, Billy. So we'll move to the sort of final, the big question of the show. Do you feel Ian Evatt is the right man to deliver promotion at Bolton Wanderers?
Yes, I think he's got all the tools available to him. I think the relationships he's built up with the hierarchy, but also within the squad, the atmosphere he's created, I think evident from Bodvarsson's goal yesterday. I think he definitely is the right man to lead them. We've spoken about the competitive squad that he's compiled, the relationships he has made. I think at this moment, automatics might be a bit of a stretch, but continuing in this vein and continuing this form, and who knows what this season can hold if they can bolster their forward line and perhaps get Dion Charles and Bodvarsson firing back to what we know they can. It's a really, really exciting prospect, and I think Evatt is the right guy to keep employed and keep on this sort of trajectory.
Yeah, plenty to be excited about, certainly for Bolton fans. But just before we go, a comment in from Rhys Jones. He's got a question. He asks whether we think Evatt could make the jump up to the Championship. I think from my perspective, certainly I'd back what you said, that he's probably, for me, one of the most exciting coaches outside the top 2 tiers of English football. And I think what's really, really impressed is the speed he seems to be able to step up to a new challenge. We've seen it. We saw it at League Two and moving to a massive club in Bolton, having had success at Barrow. And we've seen it again in League One, the finishing 8th, I think it was last season, and now having them in the top 6 amongst all those teams. I've got no doubt, whether it's Bolton or with another side, that Evatt really could make that jump up to the Championship. What do you think, Billy?
I think it'd have to be the right Championship club. We've seen sort of the volatile nature of the Championship. Rob Edwards going after, being promised so much. I've seen pretty much half the managers in the Championship be dismissed already this season. So I think it'd have to be a club where patience would be afforded, or Bolton. I think there's definitely a lot of scope for Bolton to get promoted. And I think beyond that, I think there's a lot of scope for Evatt to craft a squad that would be ready for the Championship. I think he's already got lots of individuals that would be able to make the step up. I think there's a lot of sort of intangible features that would suggest that he could make the step up with this Bolton side. And yeah, I think it would be exciting to see how they'd fare up should they win promotion.
Well, that is everything from myself and Billy and us on Football League World TV today. But do look out because across the rest of the week, there'll be plenty more content around a range of EFL clubs. So that just leaves me to say thanks, Billy, and thank you, everyone, for watching.